Every guy at some point is going to ask himself this question. Should I stay single and keep my options open? Or should I commit and build something deep with one incredible woman? It's the ultimate modern dilemma. On one side, you've got endless possibilities, sexual freedom, and that thrill of the chase. And on the other hand, you've got the potential for deep connection, for partnership, and the potential for something really extraordinary with the right person. Maybe that even includes children and a family. But here's what makes this decision so brutal. Most guys are making it based on fear, not clarity. The fear of missing out, or the fear of settling, or the fear of choosing the wrong woman. Welcome back to The Naked Connection. This is the show that supports driven men to reach sexual mastery and build deep connections. What's up, you guys? It's Kirsten. And before we go any further, please take a moment and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss a single episode. Today, I am sitting down with Tripp Kramer. He is an international dating coach who has helped thousands of men navigate dating and success with women. And he is going to help us cut through all of the noise and answer this question once and for all. And this is not just about dating strategy. This is about designing the life that you actually want. So whether you're single and loving it, or whether you think it's time to lock it down, this conversation is going to change how you think about love and commitment in today's world. You guys, let's get some. Let's be real. Your skincare routine probably consists of splashing water on your face and calling it good. But if you want to show up as the confident, put-together man that you are, it is time to level up. The Skin Ultra Advanced Kit from Manscaped will give you everything you need in one simple system. We're talking 4 products that actually work. An electric face buffer pro that deep cleans your skin in only 60 seconds. An exfoliating face wash with brightening vitamin C serum that handles that post-shave irritation. And a lightweight moisturizer that won't leave you looking like a grease ball. Look, you guys, over 12 million men trust Manscaped, and there is a reason for that. This isn't some complicated skincare with a million steps that your girl is invested in every single morning and night. This is a straightforward routine that only takes a minute, and it will make a real difference in how you look and feel. So get 15% off the Skin Ultra Advanced Kit with code NAKED15 at manscaped.com. That's 15% off your entire purchase with code NAKED15 at manscaped.com. Your confidence will thank you. Tripp Kramer, welcome to The Naked Connection.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good to be here.
So Tripp, in thinking about where we kind of are in the world today, I know a lot of men have been faced with this decision of staying single, enjoying the options, enjoying the dating world, or making that choice to step into a relationship, step into a marriage. And it becomes hard to make that decision, especially with all of the noise, with all of the options that are out there in the world. And I'm wondering, where does somebody go if they are sitting in the gray area or sitting in this question for themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. It goes really deep, especially now because of what we hear in the various spaces online. If you've ever heard of like red pill, black pill, MGTOW, all these different versions of how men see what women could be to them in terms of, is it someone that I just want to sleep with? Is it someone I don't want to be associated with at all? Is it someone where I want to be in a relationship? Or is it something where I want to have a family and have kids? I know that a lot of people, a lot of guys, I should say, do have some sort of idea of what path they want to go down. But what happens is really interesting. When they start getting good at dating, they start to question it. So what I mean is, when you get good at dating and you learn how to meet women as a man, all of a sudden you have options, which is not a program. It's not default programming in a man. We're kind of always at scarcity because we happen to be the pursuers and women are the receivers. So we have all that scarcity. And once we have abundance, it can get a little exciting. It turns into a new problem of, well, now that I have more choice, should I just have fun and sleep around and not get into any relationship at all? Or it could turn into a problem of, now I can attract multiple women, many types of women, and you start to become more selective and more picky. And then therefore it could be harder to get into a relationship because you're thinking you can always get better because you have the ability to get better. So it becomes tough. So I'll speak to the guys who are in many different boats. Either you're a guy who you're just like, I don't know. I really don't know what I want, as well as the guy who doesn't know what he wants because he's more advanced in the dating arena. So there's many different routes to go here. And I'll say this, speaking from a man who I am married, I have a family. I've gotten married in my later years. I got married when I was 38. And so I went through this personally of what do I want and who should I be with? And I have some more abundance because I've learned this, and what does it all look like to me? So there is an element of age, I would say. So if you're 25 and younger and you're listening to this and you're unsure, that's pretty normal. I don't know if there's, much advice I can give you other than date, have fun, see what you like, see what's interesting to you, and start to think about it. But it's not this huge decision that needs to be made. Because for men, we don't have to worry about when we have to have kids technically, because we're not women, who as we age, it becomes harder to have children. So you have a little bit more time. And honestly, I think guys who are 25 and younger should be working more on themselves and personal development and becoming more confident, stronger versions of themselves, and making more money, becoming healthy, just working on becoming the ultimate version of you. That's probably where most of your time should be focused. But let's say you're over 25. Maybe you're even in your 30s, potentially 40s. But I know a lot of guys who maybe have this problem are probably mostly in their 30s. And so I can't obviously tell you what to do and what's good for you. I don't know your personality and what you want and what your goals are and what your traumas are from when you were a kid and how it's all working out psychologically in your brain. But I can just say I can say a few things like this. For one, I do know that it's a fantasy in your mind about what it might look like to just be kind of sleeping around for the rest of your life and never getting into a relationship. I think that with that, it can be very lonely. And it can be tough, even if you are very good at meeting women and going on dates and getting second dates and third dates. It's a lifestyle for a very specific kind of person. I don't think everyone can really do it. I think you have to be probably very introverted and have a lot of goals and things that you like to do and kind of like your own space and so super comfortable with being alone and enjoying that. That's probably more for that kind of person. But even that person, and I know many people like this, can get very lonely at times and still get into relationships. I will also say this. I mean, obviously, I'm married. I'm in a long-term relationship. I've had multiple long-term relationships. So obviously, I'd be saying something like this. But when you find a great woman, after, let's say you've, sowed your oats and you've had fun, when you find a great woman, and if you want a family one day, it makes life amazing. Now, there's so much rhetoric online that is not the case, and women will just divorce you, and your sex in the bedroom is dead, and life goes downhill. And yes, that is true for many people. For many men, that does happen. And I won't deny that it is a risk of going into a marriage and a relationship that shit can really go down, which means that you have to be really good at picking and finding a great woman, or else, your risk is really high. To me, my thought around this to kind of sum all this up, is that the risk is worth the reward, because I just don't see for many people it being a really fulfilling life, just kind of being on your own and just kind of dating here and there. For some people, like I said, it's a great fit for their lifestyle. I do know a few people who are doing it that way, and it works for them fantastic. I just think that's a minority and not the majority. And that's what you have to kind of think about, and who you are and what that might look like for you. So kind of go down that path. Don't just think about, oh, what it's going to be like to sleep with a bunch of women, have a bunch of fun and never be in a relationship and have tons of variety. But like, what does the day-to-day really look like on that? And how much work can be involved in that? Like, one thing, I'm very passionate about my business, about Tripp advice. And so the lifestyle of having a wife and a family works for me, because I don't want to be spending my time on dating apps and trying to sleep with a lot of women. Sounds like a fun time, but also I just have all these other goals in my life. I'm so business oriented that I want most of my time being spent on that. And I know that if you're single, there's a lot of time taken up by a lot of effort involved to date and go out with women. So this kind of lifestyle works for me, and that's something to think about as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so much in all of this. And
I know that was a long rant.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting. I live in San Diego, and I don't know if it's just geographically something that comes up, but people talk about like this Peter Pan kind of syndrome, if you will, or just where someone doesn't want to grow up. And part of that is this desire to have fun. And once you've gotten the capacity and the skills to effectively meet women and succeed in dating, that becomes really exciting. And it's hard to want to give that up. Especially, I know some men who they have like an age in mind or a goal in mind. And they're like, once I reach this, or once I'm this age, then I'll settle down. But then they end up getting to that point and they're like, oh, wait, but this is still so great. And I still have all of these options. And this feels or seems better than making the decision to meet someone. And I recently heard this kind of idea that women have this fear of being alone and men have this fear of picking the wrong woman. And that can really, when you have all of these options, it becomes really hard to pick that one person. You kind of mentioned that there is risk in choosing to go down the path of being with somebody, and recognizing I might pick the wrong person is really terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is. I get it. I think, first of all, I agree with that generalization. I do believe that is the right generalization. If we had to say, like, what do men fear most, what do women fear most? But equally, I still do believe that a lot of men struggle with that loneliness factor as well. But I think maybe they don't say it because we're kind of used to being alone and lonely. Women are just really good at making friends and talking to friends. And so I don't know. But yeah, it's something that needs to be worked on. And if it takes time, it takes time. But you said there's a person who maybe is out there and they're having a lot of fun, they're being single and they're still not ready and they're at that age, then maybe that's your calling. Then maybe that's what it needs to be. That's your lifestyle and that's what it's going to be like. And if you're having fun doing it and it works for you,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not lonely and things are going great, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I also know that there are some guys, and this is for everyone listening, you got to think about this and go inward here, that if there is a guy out there who says, yes, I want to have fun, I want variety, I just want to have sexual escapades, but you also kind of want, there's a lot of guys like this, they kind of want everything, you want all of it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be careful, because there might be one day when you are 40, and I know stories like this from just personally from people that I know who kind of got to that point. They had fun, and now they're 40, almost 45 maybe, and they want that family and they want that woman, and it's a little bit harder at that point because you're not at your peak as a man. Men generally peak in their mid to late 30s. So you're a little bit over that peak. It becomes a little bit harder. And now it becomes harder because if you're in your early 40s, yes, you could still be attracting women in their late 20s, but this is from just what I've seen. There's no data here or anything like that. This is totally anecdotal, but just what I've seen is when you've made the decision too late and you've decided, now I want to have a family and kids, the window is very narrow for the kind of woman that you should be with. I'll explain. Under 29, obviously those women might not be ready to have kids anytime soon because they're under 29. I don't know. They just don't want to get married and go through that whole process. And then you're like, okay, well, I'm going to have kids. Now it's going to be like till I'm almost my late 40s, which is kind of late, maybe even later. And so the sweet spot for a guy in his late 30s to mid 40s is maybe like 30 to 32 or 33 if I'm pushing it. And I say that small window because over 33, and you better hope that you're with a woman who is healthy enough to have kids, wants to have kids pretty fast, which generally we know in the courtship process, you're not like meeting someone and having kids within a year. You're dating for a year. You move in at year one. You live together for a few years. Then you get married. Then you're married for a couple of years. Obviously, you can fast forward that whole process. There's no rules to this, but it just becomes a little bit harder to rush that unless you find that specific woman who's willing to do that. And then, of course, over 33, you might be dealing with women who, okay, they're single because they've never wanted to really have kids. And so they're not even looking for that, or they have their eggs frozen and that becomes more complicated. So my point in this little rant number 2 is that you don't want it to be too late. So if you are that guy who says, I don't know, I might want that, I'd look into that because you don't want to be over 40 and finally realize it because life will be a little bit more challenging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is interesting. I think a lot of the times this conversation, at least from what I hear, is that it's like women looking at the age time frame and then not necessarily looking at it from the perspective of a man being like, okay, well, I have like a smaller window of women to pick from because of the reality that happens in the ability to have kids, which is really interesting because I think a lot of guys think, oh, I can do it at any point or at any age. And I actually had a fertility expert on the show a while back who talked about the reality that while a man can have a baby at any point in time, that similar to a woman, that a man's sperm starts to degrade and that it's actually better if an older man tries to have a baby with a younger woman because her younger eggs are going to show up better considering that he has older sperm. So there is a small element biologically. And it's interesting. I think that people have gotten, with modern science and all of these things, so much better at looking younger and feeling younger. And yet this biological component of our bodies haven't really changed. So maybe someone looks and feels 29, but they're still biologically, in order to reproduce and have a family, the age that they actually are. And we kind of forget about that a little bit.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never heard that. Mm-hmm. And then time goes fast and here you are at whatever age and you haven't done what you set out to do, or you've wasted time, or who knows what happened, and there you are. That's interesting too. That's like, it would be ideal, biologically speaking, for, based on what you said, an older man to be with a younger woman. It's the other problem is not many women who are in their mid to late 20s. Again, not every woman, but I'm saying a majority of women are not really looking for guys over 40 for serious relationships. I mean, how old are you, Kirsten?
35.
35. Are you in a relationship at all? Okay, you're single?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, well, you're a woman, so you've experienced this. I mean, if you're 27, 28, let's say, and you want to be in a relationship, what's your ideal age that you'd want to be with as a guy? Like if you could pick the exact age, like I want a guy at this age, assuming you're 28.
Oh, 35.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like
I knew you were going to say that too. It's somewhere around there.
Yeah, I think I'm remembering back when I was 27 thinking that 40 was old. But
yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. So then let's say that someone's listening and they're like, well, shit, what do I do with this? I'm not ready. It's such a hard thing. I think that what I'm noticing that's coming up is this element of like, and I say this in understanding it, it's like this selfish desire to do the things that we want to do all at the same time and wanting it all. I want to have the fun, and I also want to eventually have a family. And the reality is that I'm going to eventually have to make a choice.
Yeah. Life isn't fair. That's just the answer. Life isn't fair.
Yeah.
Everything has consequences. So you have to go with, at the end of the day, you got to make a decision. I think that this is one of the most important life lessons that we are not taught. I hope to teach my kids this, and I still struggle with this. It's very hard, but it's so important. And it's the ability to make decisions, because if you're not making decisions, you're just wasting time. Yeah. And we live in a culture where you better make the right decision or you're going to have a bad time. You got to look at all the reviews. You got to see all the different things on the shelf, and you got to make sure it's perfect, because that's what we live in. We live in this society where things are kind of handed to us. So it's this it's called the paradox of choice. It's becoming harder to choose, harder to make decisions. So it's becoming more of an important skill. And the part that sucks is if you don't have that skill, you end up as a guy over 40 that kind of doesn't know what they want, and then they're stuck, and then they thought they wanted this, but now it's not happening, or it's too late. And I just want to be clear here. This is I'm talking to the men who haven't made that decision yet. If you're a guy who's like divorced and you're over 40 and you're like, oh, well, I'm screwed now. Tripp's saying I'm screwed. It's nearly not what I'm saying. Sometimes life just hands that to you, and you got to do with what your situation is and do your best. And there's always a way to get what you want. What my point is I like that guy. That guy's in a better position because it sounds like he knows what he wants. So he's making a decision. Like, that's the most important. Don't worry too much about all those little details of what if this and what if that. You got to go with it. So if you just want to have fun and that's the thing that you want to do, then just do that. Oh, but what if I do that for a while, then I want kids? Okay, then that's what's going to happen. We can't know everything. We can't predict the future. But the worst thing to do is to kind of do nothing or do like gray area. Like, gray area doesn't get you results in life. Period. You do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, it doesn't get you the best results. Oh, I'm going to just, like they say, everything in moderation. And I do believe that, depending on what we're talking about in the context, but there's also a saying called extreme actions get extreme results. So if you're going to the gym every day and you're hardcore watching every calorie you eat, that's pretty extreme, but you're probably going to be jacked and lose a lot of weight. If you go, I'm going to go all in and I want to get married and I want to have kids and this is what I want to do. And you just grind and you just get on the dating apps and you go out and you approach women and you get so focused on exactly what kind of woman you want to be with, you got good chances of finding a great woman, because you're going to do all the right things and you're doing all the things that we teach over here at Tripp Advice, getting a lot of volume, practicing flirting and approaching and confidence and all that stuff. And then you're going to get what you want. Or maybe you're a guy who's just like, nah, I just want to have fun. And that's all I want to do. And I want to work on my business, or I want to, work on my career, and just like when I have time, just kind of sleep with some women. And you just go all into that, and that's what you're going to get. And it's going to be great for you. But I'm not saying you guys have to make a decision today, but I wouldn't be taking several months to several years to make that decision. Sometimes you just got to go with it.
It is really hard, I think, for people to make decisions. And I'm wondering too, if this is in part where situationships come into play, because it's such a gray space to be in, where you're kind of in something, but you're kind of not, and you're still wanting to explore, but this feels good to have this pseudo relationship dynamic. And You mentioned wanting to teach your kids how to make better decisions or just be able to make decisions. Because it sounds like you were in a space where you reached a point where you were like, I'm going to make this decision to have a family and get married. How were you able to do that for yourself?
It was tough. It was tough. I think the choice was made for me in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I have been in multiple long-term relationships. I think, including my now wife, I've probably been in a total of maybe 5 or 6. And I don't mean just like a couple months. I mean, all of those were well over a year. One was 4 years. I was engaged even before I got married to the person I'm with now. So I had a lot of relationships. And then in between those relationships, I had time when I was going out and just dating and having fun and not caring about any being monogamous or anything like that. And then I really sat down with myself and I went, okay, what do I really want? And what have I really enjoyed? And so what guided me was, like I said, it was not simple. It took a bit to get there, but what guided me was I knew I always wanted to have a family. Mm-hmm. So that was my thing I wanted. So I reverse engineered that. It's like, well, if I know I want a family, then that means I'm going to have to get married, because statistics show that you're going to raise better kids if you're married and they're raised by, 2 parents. And then I thought, okay, well, if I want a kid, I don't want to be an older dad. I want to be young and energetic and have more life with the family, or else why am I creating a family? So I was like, all right, this is it. Because I was thinking to myself, like, could I live a life without having kids, having a family? Could I go? Do I see my life like that? And I just couldn't picture my life just not having that. Mm-hmm. So that was the answer right there. Now, of course, I'm still a guy. And so part of me did want to just be single and have variety and have fun and not get into anything serious, because I have the skill set to be able to do that. And I had abundance, but I just saw a life I didn't really like living. And so that was it. It's like, okay, so here we go. We got to really get down to it and find someone and find the right person that's going to make sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like an element of really knowing yourself and knowing what you truly want out of your life, and pausing to take that introspection of looking at, if I stay down this road, this is what that would look like. And is that what I really want versus another road? Is that what I really want? And then making that decision and sticking to it. And going full speed ahead. Because when we try to dabble in all of the ponds at the same time, we're not really getting anywhere.
Yeah. And I think there's always an element that the grass is always greener. I think a lot of people experience this. Like when you're single, you're kind of like, I'm so sick of these dating apps and dating and these people I'm meeting. And like, I just wish I was in a relationship. It's cold outside. It's the winter. I want to be with someone. Sounds really nice, and then there's times when maybe you're in a relationship and you're like, wouldn't it be nice if I just didn't have to care about this one person all the time and I could just do whatever I wanted and sleep with whoever I wanted to and not have to compromise all the time. Yeah, I think my theory is one of the many reasons why that happens is just because we live in a world where we just want everything to be so perfect, and that's just not what life is. Mm-hmm. There's always sacrifice in life, and there's moments when you feel that sacrifice, hence the grass is greener. So you start to kind of get that hit. But no matter where you land, there might be always something where you say, wouldn't it be nice if this. But it's important to be really confident with your decision and understanding why you made that decision. And of course, I want to be clear, not like the grass is greener because you're in a relationship where it's absolutely terrible. That just means you shouldn't be in that relationship,
Yeah.
But that's normal to feel that way. And that's because that's just the human experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember years ago, someone once told me like that there's always a small element of ambivalence in the choice that you make. And it's just learning how to hold that while still sticking with the choice that you make. Aside from, if it's a horrible relationship and the bad is always outweighing the good and it's, there's a lot of bad things happening, but kind of recognizing that, that life isn't perfect and that's a part of living.
That's it.
Yeah. I'm wondering, I know we have a handful of listeners in the community that are older. Maybe a lot of them have been married and are divorced. In that space, looking at this question of where do I go from here? I think that there's, in some ways, some pros to being in that space and looking at this question of where do I want to go now after having been in a marriage, in a committed relationship in the past? Is that something I want to enter into or not now?
Yeah, like people who have been divorced and things like that. Yeah, I have a pretty easy answer for that. I mean, if you're divorced and you don't have kids and you want kids, then marriage, again, would be probably the next step for you. Most people, I don't have a stat on this. I'm sure there's a stat I could probably find it. I'm guessing a majority of people divorced have kids, or at least half. I don't know. But my guess is there's probably a lot of guys, at least who I've talked to, they're divorced, they have kids. To me, those guys usually don't want to have more kids. They're good. They have their kids. Some in the case where they're all grown up or whatever it may be, and they're co-parenting. To me, it's kind of an easy decision at that point. I don't think you really need to get married again. I don't see the benefit or have heard any really good argument for men to get married if they're not going to have a kid. Like I just don't logically understand it. It doesn't make sense to me. It sounds more like something a woman would want because she would want to make sure that the guy's not going to leave and stay with her. But for a man, it just doesn't make much sense. Like there's no point to getting married if you're not trying to raise a family. That doesn't mean you can get into a relationship. Sure, if you want to have a nice little ceremony by some means, or I don't know, but getting legally married, getting actually married, it doesn't make sense. So for you, maybe it's just no relationships. Maybe you're jaded, and at this point, you just want to have fun and sleep around and kind of do your own thing, and you got your time with your kids when you have them, and that's that. Or you don't really like that idea. You do want to get into a relationship. A lot of guys do want to find relationships after bad divorce, even with kids. Great. You can do that. And there's a lot of people that you can have that opportunity with. But I'll just make this easy for you. You don't have to look for someone who's interested in marriage. And that a lot of women are still interested in marriage. So you're going to be cutting down your pool size by a little bit because you meet some women who've never been married. And so they're not going to want to be with you because you don't want to get married or whatever it may be. But there are women out there who don't care about getting married necessarily and would just be a partner or a long-term partner and grow old together. So,
yeah, that's an interesting take on it because from what I've come to understand about getting married, it's like this, it's a legal binding experience that a lot of people don't take the time to really dive into understanding. We had a divorce lawyer on the show who really walked through some of the elements that a lot of people don't. They sign that paper and don't really think about until, unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, divorce happens. And so, yeah, if you're not raising a family, maybe stepping into a partnership, but really looking at why would I go down this step in the process of entering into another legal contract with somebody. And I know I was reading some statistics. I know a lot of people say, 50% of marriages end in divorce. But when you break it down, it's something more like first-time marriages. It's like 70% stay together, 30% get divorced. And it's if you get divorced once, you're more likely to get divorced again. And if you get divorced twice, you're more likely to get divorced again. So the stat is a little skewed, but it looks like if you've been divorced once, your likelihood of getting divorced again is significantly higher.
Yeah,
so knowing
I've heard that too.
It's knowing that is kind of the way things go, really looking at, do I want to enter into this again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard it's like over 70% or something crazy on like number 3. And yeah, so it gets risky.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And just understanding kind of how things work, especially like financially and things like that, the splitting of money and all of that, then you're just kind of like dividing out what you've built for yourself over time. The more times
Just
you
keep getting
divorced.
every woman you're with just giving half and half and half. So
Yeah.
exponentially, you're
Yeah.
just getting more and more broke. That's not fun. So you got to pick the right woman.
Well, and thinking about that, I have found that a lot of the times men know really quickly, like, oh, this is the person that I want. And I'm wondering what your take is on that, or how to identify this is the person that I want to be with.
Yeah. So we have something that we teach over here called the 3 non-negotiables.
Mm.
So what that is it's your list of the 3 most important things that you'd be looking for within a woman.
Mm.
And if you don't know what those are, you can kind of play with it. It can be a dynamic list, which means that it could change over time as you date and start to get to know yourself and women and what's important to you. But it's good to have some sort of standard to go by so that you can choose.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you're just kind of choosing based on how you feel a connection with this person. And that is not always the best way to go about it, because we can have connections with people, but it might not be a good fit. So for example, one of your non-negotiables might be that this person really wants to have kids. Or maybe you don't want kids. So then they don't want kids. So imagine connecting with someone and falling for someone that doesn't want kids and you want kids. That's going to be a problem. Another one could be just you want a woman who's really into health, because health is a big factor in your life and very important to you. You can easily fall for someone that's not important to them, and that becomes a big disconnect later on. And then there's things like religion or political leaning, just general values, or this person has to, be okay with the fact that I like to do this hobby, and they just be accepting of that. I'm going to be going on golf trips all the time. And that's a non-negotiable, that acceptance. So it's got to figure out what's important to you. Came to the idea of 3 because every time you go to a longer list, you cut your pool significantly. So if I said to you, Kirsten, I have 10 things and I'm looking for in a woman, and she has to have all 10 things, it might take you a very long time. You might not even ever find that person.
Mm.
But of course, if you say 0, then you have no standards and it just becomes a big risk. So I say it's 3 non-negotiables plus the connection piece. The X factor, it's kind of hard to even put it in words. You just feel a connection with this person. You just get each other. You see life in the same way. You laugh kind of at the same things, and you like a few of the same things, and you just feel comfortable when you're with them, and it just kind of makes sense. It's like almost hard to put words. It's just that connection. People lean too much into that and not enough into some of the logical. So if we can combine all those, and then you toss in the formula of just putting in a lot of volume to find out who matches all those, then you have a better chance at finding that person.
Yeah. I love that, in the sense of thinking about people that have these really long lists, and how in many ways that's just cutting out so much possibility, and that looking at the things that are really important plus the ingredient of having that connection. Because I think sometimes people are like, but this person has everything that I want, but I don't feel like I want to be with them. Or there's some conversations that I've had with people in the past where there's almost confusion about, but this person seems so right for me, but I don't feel anything. So I love the combination of the two, kind of putting your head and your heart together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Tripp, I really appreciate you coming on the show and having this conversation, and exploring this question of really, should I stay single or should I get married? Why or why not? And how to make that decision for yourself. I know that you have been doing this work for a really long time and have such incredible insight. So I really appreciate you coming on the show. And I'm curious if anybody wants to work with you or learn more from you, where should they go to find you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it depends kind of where you're at and how you're taking in this content. I like to say there's a few places. If you're a big podcast person, you love podcasts. I have a podcast of my own. I should have you on, by the way. We should definitely have you on.
Yeah.
And it's called How to Talk to Girls. So that podcast has been running for a long time. You can check that out. If you're watching this on YouTube, I have a YouTube channel just called Tripp Advice. If you're done taking in more content, you really resonated with just my vibe and kind of what I'm saying, and you want to get help, then you can go to trippadvicecoaching.com. And there you can book a call. We'll chat with you and see if coaching is something that can help you. Mainly it's for guys who are looking to learn how to attract women. We don't care, by the way, if you're looking for marriage or girlfriend or just to have fun. To be honest, it's all the same skill set, most of it. So we're here to help you, and we teach you how to meet women, attract women, get the volume, find your non-negotiables, find the women that you're really attracted to. We do that in our one-on-one coaching program at trippadvicecoaching.com. So there's all your options.
Amazing. Well, Tripp, thank you so much for being here today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of The Naked Connection. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss another episode. Trust me on this, your sex life and that special someone in your life will thank you for it. And if you really love the show, please take a moment and leave a 5-star review or a written review and let me know what you think. It would mean so much to me and this show. Until next time, happy connecting.